Hey, hon, how are you?
Oh, I've been better. I just
Wh-
figured I'd come up this be easier than being like, hey, I'm not allowed to go to the dentist without a doctor's now.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? You have to get a referral from a doctor to go to a dentist out there?
No. Like
Oh.
4 days ago, my heart rate was up high. I went to the hospital, all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Yep.
And then I went to the dentist to deal with my tooth, and then my blood pressure was really low. So they're like, you're not allowed to get any treatment until we get a doctor's note.
Oh, because you have like maybe an infection or something.
No, just because they're
No?
sending me for like an EGG, an echo, an ultrasound for my heart,
Mm.
neurologist, all of that.
Oh no. Well, I hope that they can figure it out. You've been dealing with this
Me
for far too
too.
long, like I swear.
Month
And
and
all,
after the other.
it is. I know. I'm sorry, hun. I
It's
hope you
okay.
feel better soon, though, and that these doctors, always, I don't know how your, medical system works out there, but if you are allowed a second opinion or going to a different doctor can always
Yeah.
help, speed things up or see if they have a different insight too, is always good. So,
See, it's pros and cons because my doctor just retired. So I've had a gap in my medical
mm,
care while I've been trying to adjust all of this. And then on top of it, I'm not allowed to see my doctor or get any medications or referrals or anything until I see my new doctor.
oh no.
Um, but this also helps me because going to the hospital, they're like, oh, a gap in your medical care. I'll send you for as many things as I can actually provide. So it's
Well,
good.
that's good. Here,
Yeah.
that's not how it works. It'd
See,
be the
that's the thing
opposite.
too. Yeah. Because everything's still backed up after COVID. So,
hmm Yep,
yeah.
I know. It is. And also like referrals out here take months. Like absolute like
Yeah.
average is about 6 months to get to a specialist. Like I just got a dermatology specialist recommendation and they called me for a appointment and it's like in freaking February. Like that is their
Oh, yeah, that's
first
rough.
appointment that they have at all. I'm like, don't
Yeah.
be dying here because if you need to see a doctor quick, you ain't see, you ain't
Yeah,
seeing
same
them.
nobody.
Uh-uh,
Yeah.
uh-uh.
I mean, I've been on a wait list for a bunch of things like MRI,
Yeah.
CAT scans for like 3 years. So they're gonna send me on an emergency one.
Yeah. Now that I've never heard. That's
Mm,
really long. That's too long. That could make more things go bad than ever help, having to wait that long.
I agree.
The kiddos are on one this morning, aren't they?
Mhm.
I know.
Just
It's why
in
I'm
time, right?
right. I know, right? I know. Mine's sleeping still, thankfully, but we already know that can change at any minute.
I know. I know. I know, right?
I
But yeah,
know.
I can't have any like extra stress. I can't be
Hmm
no rushing emotions.
Well, maybe
No.
you need to get lots of rest and no TikTok drama, that's for sure. That's
Mhm.
for
I
sure.
know.
Right?
Thank God for Alexander.
I know. Alex is the best. He's so sweet. So grateful that she has somebody like that for sure. Because, not all of us have each other, like that or somebody like that.
I
Sorry, I'm getting a
know.
text. Let me get rid of this.
Yeah, I agree with
No.
you.
hmm
Tough times.
I
But
know.
I will let you get on to
I
some
know
guests.
the algorithm is not happy with me at all. It's like I know that's
Unfortunately,
the
I can't share
problem.
right now either.
You
So,
can't share either?
no.
Rude. So did people like
No.
report you or something? Is that what happened?
Oh, no. Somebody called me a very bad term, and I just said, okay, and then thank you, and then said a nicer insult.
And then they
But we both
reported
got
you.
banned.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
we
both
both got
got
banned.
banned.
Yeah,
Mm.
must have hurt his feelings.
I feel it. TikTok is always changing their rules too, and some rules apply to some and some not to others. I've noticed
Mhm.
too.
It's like, can't I just
Definitely.
get off with the this defending myself? Come on.
No, I know, seriously.
But yeah,
And let
good
us
to
just
see you.
have like TikTok is for everybody. We can't claim spaces at this point. Like
Hmm.
seriously, ridiculous. But
Anyways, I love you,
I love
and
you
I'll talk
too,
to you
hon.
later.
Yes, I hope you feel better.
You
Okay, we'll
too.
talk later. Have a
Bye-bye.
good day.
You too.
If anybody want to come on up and have a conversation, should I drop you? Let me
Yeah,
drop you.
I don't know.
Okay, I forget I should do that too. Okay. But if anybody wants to come on up, I've been a Christian for about 18 years and I just kind of found this side of TikTok about a year ago and love to have just open, genuine conversations about our beliefs. And I think we can all learn and grow from each other no matter what. So if you want to come on and talk, you can be, you don't have to not be a Christian. I have Christians up. I can have a few people up. We can have great discussions in here. And I like to keep it just respectful. I feel like if we're yelling and fighting, nobody's really listening, anyways. So I like to have those conversations where we can all think, learn, and, all that good stuff. And then maybe be friends afterwards, or at least not feel like crap after having a conversation. I know I've definitely felt that going into other people's lives. So just want a safe space for everybody and to share, what God's done in my life and to share that, honestly, I truly believe I couldn't get through or over or navigate life the way that I have been able to with the peace that I've been able to through all circumstances. I feel like I can only, credit that to God. And, He's completely changed my life. And, I feel like He's led me here to share what he has, taught me so we can learn together, grow together, and ultimately that we can all just have that relationship with God that I feel like is the number one priority. And us in America, anyways, I can only speak for us, is when we go to church, we are not taught a lot of the truth about God. We are not taught about his character, what he is to us or what we are to him. And I feel like in church, it's very, glossed over, same stories, same principles without ever really scratching the surface of having a relationship with God. I found that through, my own going to God, seeking to God, praying to God, talking to God, sitting with God. And that is what grew my relationship, my understanding, and my knowing of God. Like going to church, I never learned how to do that. I think it's great for fellowship, but I definitely think a lot of churches have lost the plot on, what Jesus actually came down here to teach us and what God wants us to know. So finding this site of TikTok has been a whirlwind. I love just, the conversations that I've had, the points of views that have come into my world now, and the perspectives and the way to look at, God from even a different lens and learn things that I didn't know. And, I just think it's really an awesome platform for all this kind of stuff. And I just hope that somebody, if you want to come up and talk, I'm nice, I promise. And we can be Christians talking about things. I know that that's another big problem with Christianity is that there are way too many denominations, and even in the religion, people can't even agree. So, I definitely think that that's one of our main goals is to as Christians get more on the same page so that we can deliver the message of God a lot more coherently because we're all over the place, which confuses Christians and non-Christians alike. So that's another one of my goals is that we can, really, learn off of each other because I think that one brain's always better, or two brains always better than one. Especially mine, because mine forgets things middle sentence. We already know. So more brains on this with me, much better. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. If you celebrate that, family time. If you went out to Black Friday, hope you got some deals because I didn't see any out there. Um, I don't even go. And, just come on up. I don't know. I think the algorithm really is unhappy with me right now, which is okay. I'll just keep on coming on and we'll get people in the room. And you know what? It doesn't matter if there's only two, three of us, four or five of us. I feel like just being together and having that atmosphere of a safe space for us all is really important. So even if we just accomplish that, I'm happy. And in my views, it's where two or more gather, God is there with us. So I believe that He speaks to us all in all different kinds of ways through what I allow the Holy Spirit to speak through me and what we, experience in life, the interactions with people on a daily basis. I believe that God is talking to us always. It's just the matter of the fact is we have a hard time listening. We have a hard time figuring out how to hear God. That's at least my personal experience is once I started to learn, and I'm still learning, of course, but once I started to learn how God was speaking to me and being able to pinpoint that, that changed everything, honestly. That changed my perspective to be able to notice when He was talking to me, notice when God was giving me those signs or trying to communicate with me on what decision I should make or, what path that He's leading me down. So, listening, I think, is key in any relationship, and especially with communication. And we definitely lose that a lot. We like to talk, talk, talk. And sometimes we don't allow for an answer to be given. You know what I mean? Even here on earth. So that is something that I definitely feel like is needed and should be practiced, is to listen to not only our fellow humans, but number one, listen to God, learn how to listen to Him. So you know what? Let's share something. So I do a lot of Bible studies, listen to a lot of videos. A lot of you know I'm like conspiracy theorist, so I'm always down those rabbit holes. But this is like kind of like must have been a revelation that God gave people, but a lot of people and arguments that for Jesus is that He was calling out to God on the cross, and when He says, why have you forsaken me? And people get really hung up on that. I have too, and that's hard to like understand. Why would God, if God is here, say that God forsake him? Like it was very confusing, and come to realize through this other video and other, confirmations and reading the scripture by myself is that Jesus was quoting scripture about His own death and a prophecy that was made in Psalms 22 by David. So just bear with me because I know a lot of my friends in here are not believers, but but when he screams out, "Why have you forsaken me?" This is actually a direct quote from Psalms 22, 1, and it says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" This is what Jesus says on the cross, okay? And this is written by David in the Old Testament, and people don't like the scholars should have, the Pharisees should have pinpointed this. They should have caught on to this because then later in this passage, same Psalms 22, it says, "Dogs surround me, a pack of villains encircle me. They pierce my hands and my feet." I mean, how direct is that? Um, all my all my bones are on display, and people stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garments. This is directly in Mark, I believe, that talks about when Jesus is on the cross, how they divide His garments among them. Remember, this was written by David in Psalms 22,000 years before this happened. It said, "But you, Lord, you do not go far from me. You are my strength. Come quickly to help me." And then remember, we go back to the first thing. It says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" This is the direct This is Jesus saying with his like last breath that he is again fulfilling prophecy. And a lot of people that this is new to me. I've never heard a pastor talk about this. I've never heard in a Bible study talk about this, but that is something that people get hung up on a lot. And to have somewhat of, a clarifying, like I really truly believe that God Jesus was quoting scripture about his own death that was prophesied by David in Psalms, which is amazing. And I can't believe it. Sorry, this is new information that I had just gotten in a video. And then, like I said, I read the scriptures, and I truly believe that, Jesus fulfilled all of those prophecies. And when you really look into it, you have that perspective to see what God was saying and what Jesus meant by all of the things that he was saying, that you will see that Jesus is God, that everything that happened in the New Testament, for the most part, was all spoken about 1,000 years prior. And I understand, I know there's lots of arguments, but I'm sorry. I do not care how much of like a fraud I may be. Like, say, because I've heard through, just conversations that people are like, okay, well, what if Jesus was a fraud? Just like a straight up knew the Old Testament and knew how to like play it out, I guess, in a way. I don't know how you would fraudulently bring people back from the dead, but I don't know. I'm just saying that people think that he was fraud. But I'm sorry, I don't know anybody on their last dying breath to remember a scripture from the Old Testament and say those exact words is kind of not plausible to me. Like, we really have to think about this through, like, put ourselves in an ordinary human situation. Were you here, Trevor? I can read it again. I don't know if you know this, but on the cross, I know a lot of people say like that Jesus called out to God and said, "Why did you forsake me?" And that he is directly quoting Psalms 22, written by David over 1,000 years ago. And then if you read later on in Psalms 22, same thing, just a couple verses down, it talks about how they killed him, pierced his hands and feet, and then spread his clothes amongst them. That is directly talked about in Mark. So I know that there are a lot of disputes. There's a lot of things that we can say on how that isn't true, but put ourselves in that place, an ordinary human being, okay, on their dying breath, in the one of the most horrendous deaths possible, remembers a quote like that directly then in a few other lines, if you read down, talk about how they pierce his hands and feet. Like, I'm sorry, those are the coincidences in the Bible that I can't get over. Oh, I didn't even see anybody was in there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hello, hello. Sorry, I didn't see you in the queue. How are you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, great. How are you?
I'm alright. There's a snowstorm here.
Oh, yeah, it's freezing here. I'm in Ohio, so we're looking at like 30s all week. So are
Yeah, I'm in.
you, go
Oh
ahead.
God, I'm in
No, no, no.
Minnesota. We're getting like 6 inches today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know if we're getting any snow today. I honestly didn't look. But we might. Well, you guys be safe out there.
Yeah. Um, but no, I was trying to say, and it's like hard to put it in comments. Like,
Of course.
I was Christian for 27 years, by the way.
Hmm.
But I reread the Bible, and
Hmm.
when I read it, the math no longer mathed to me. Jesus, if he's a sin sacrifice, which would be a sacrifice that pays for sins, um, there's a requirement. There are prerequisites and requirements to be a valid sin sacrifice from the Christian God, and Jesus doesn't meet a single criteria. So I just no longer saw him as a valid payment for sin even if I had evidence that God existed, which I also end up no longer being convinced of. But um, I just, if I was somehow convinced again that your God existed, I'd probably be Jewish because I wouldn't see Jesus as like having paid for any sin. We'd still be waiting for that Messiah.
Can you explain where you got that from? Like, just go
Yeah,
into it a little bit, please. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So it's in Leviticus, all over the place. They're, when they're telling the Levites, only the Levitical priests can do this. You have to
Hmm.
put blood on the tabernacle. It has to
Hmm.
be a young bull if it's a whole congregation, or all these things, and it gives different animals. But at no point does number one it say it could be human. It also said that it has to be unalived quickly, which we know Jesus wasn't. It also says that it has to happen at the tabernacle and that the corpse must be drained of blood and then burned and then eaten by the Levitical priests because sin sacrifices were an essential part of food portions. And
hmm.
lastly, those are eternal laws that God sets out in Leviticus, meaning that those are the laws regarding sin sacrifice for eternity. So, regardless of prophecies being fulfilled, Jesus changing things, those laws are still in place when he's supposedly being a sin sacrifice.
And you don't think that that would change at all if Jesus is God and not just an ordinary human? You don't
If
think that has any weight? Just
if
wondering,
he
like
was
honestly.
God, like let's say he is God,
Hmm.
so then you're saying God can just ignore his own eternal laws and do whatever and be hypocritical and be like, I know I laid out these eternal laws in this entire universe I created, but I'm going to disregard them.
So a couple things. I know that, like for me with that is how I see it is when, of course, Jesus came here, that in what we would view would then have completed all of the sin sacrifice needed. Now you're getting into territory, I'm not gonna lie, that I'm a little not well versed in. I do know that, and I've been called out on this, and I'm starting my journal now to write down all my stuff. But there is passages throughout like laying out how they had to split the animal in half. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like to
Yep.
prepare the animal
Yep.
correctly and all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I know that I've heard a description of the way that they had to do that, and then the way that the symbolic way of Jesus and the way that he walked through. Goodness, I wish I would have written this down because this was pretty crazy revelation. But the way that Jesus lived his ministry was literally living this way that they laid out, the symbolic way that they laid out this animal. He lived that symbolic way in like real form. So, like the sins that
So
they,
metaphorically, he followed the laws.
right, but then died physically for our
So
sins. But I do believe that the metaphoric way that he died for our sins is that the sin was placed upon him on the cross, meaning like he felt and bared the sin of the world while he was dying. So it wasn't like a regular death, it was not a regular sacrifice. This was God putting all the sin, which I know we're going to get into another topic on how is God himself and Jesus and all that. And that's like, I don't specifically identify as like a Trinitarian or a una something or another. I don't know the definitions. This is all new to me. I'm not gonna lie. I just got on this side of TikTok and just been kind of learning about God on my own and reading the Bible throughout the years and doing Bible studies and all that kind of stuff. But so when he died, he bared the sin, all of that. So that was the difference. That at least that's what I've taken out of it is that when we were killing, sacrifices back in the day, it was because we were trying to have that connection with God again that we severed back in the garden when we chose to not be in that relationship. So for like anybody to even get in the presence of God anymore, they had to do all of those ritualistic things, and a priest would have to go into like, the Ark of the Covenant, and like you couldn't even get close to the presence of God anymore once sin entered
Pause.
the world.
Pause.
Um, yeah,
Are
go
you
ahead.
are you evangelical?
I don't really identify as anything. I guess the only thing I could identify as is I go
Christian.
to a non-denominational church. That is but
That,
I
that makes you
grew up
Christian.
atheist. Yes, right. I'm Christian, but I grew up atheist too. So I have a little bit different background. I was not raised like in the church. This was all after I was an adult that I learned that I've had a relationship with God.
I was just gonna, so yeah, that's what I want to address. So you said
Hmm.
it twice now that you have a relationship. Do
Hmm.
you know where the phrase "it's a relationship, not a religion" started, and why?
Um, I don't know. I can guesstimate why, but go ahead.
Why do you think? I'd love to tell you, but just take a
Yeah.
guess at why that phrase exists.
Um, I personally believe that Jesus specifically came down here to tell us it isn't about religion and it's about relationship. And that's why he constantly condemned the Pharisees and all of them about all the religious practices, but being hypocritical that they didn't even know God. They were doing all the practices and all the things that they had to do in their religion without ever truly having any type of relationship or knowing God. So that's what I thought that meant.
So, two things. I hear a lot of this rhetoric from non-denominational evangelical people that you have to have a relationship. Number one, Romans 10:9 says everything you need to do to get salvation. You need to confess with your mouth and believe with your heart. Um, the concept of it's a relationship, not a religion, is not biblical. And number two,
Mhm.
um, in the 1960s during the Satanic Panic, people were leaving churches in droves. And the Calvary Baptist Church, historically very racist church, came up with the phrase "it's a relationship, not a religion" to try and draw people back in because
Hmm.
they were going away from the religion, ritualistic doctrine type type churches and things like that. It was simply just a catchy phrase to try and get people to be Christian again.
And I hear that, and I don't dismiss that, but I also think that God can use anything that the devil uses to deter people as a actual thing. So like I do actually think it is about relationship. I think that when God made us in the garden and we go back all the way to the garden, it talks about God walking with us, having a relationship with us, meaning that he created us to have a relationship. So it is biblical. I think
Okay,
what
question.
human beings did, real quick, what I think human beings did is we religionize, this is not a word, we made it ritualistic. Okay, we took also things from, and it talks about this in the Bible, we also took things from all other religions too and then put them in and made them ritualistic, and that I think is one of the big reasons why Jesus came too. Like, also I think he was always coming, but like one of the reasons he came at that time was because it was all about like, I feel like if you look at the Catholic Church, you can really see what it was probably like there. All of the ritualistic things and ceremonies and things that simply don't get you any closer to God. That, in my opinion, and not anybody that I've ever talked to
Are
that,
those bad things?
I think some of them
Like
can be.
if I do the sign of the cross before I pray,
Hmm.
that's not something you believe that gets you any closer to heaven. So
Mm-mm.
what detriment does that do, or is it just a good thing, a positive thing that is added to their faith? Because I hear a lot of this hate for Catholics
Mm-hmm.
and saying the
Hmm.
sign of the cross or saying a Hail Mary,
Hmm.
and it may not be necessary for your salvation, but neither is um, going to a youth retreat and watching a Christian singer at a concert, but
Hmm.
evangelicals still do that.
Hmm. I agree. I think that these are all ways that we can outwardly um, visualize our religion, I guess, like all these rituals and things like that. And music, when you go to like these big churches and you see like bands and all that kind of thing, I kind of, like my church definitely has a band, but I do not go to a mega church. So like I'm kind of like looking at it like that. And I feel like when you look at God from the perspective of what humans are doing, we're missing it completely. We cannot judge
Really?
God. Yeah, I really do.
I feel the opposite.
I feel like that is the problem, is that a lot of people don't have a relationship with God that call themselves a Christian. So you're not seeing
Uh,
God through
no,
them.
no. So that's actually what I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you about.
Hmm.
So when I was Christian for 27 years,
Hmm.
and I promise you, I was devout and I believed,
Hmm.
and I tried to establish, what you call a relationship. I
Can I
tried to
ask you a quick question just to verify with your story? Have you ever felt like you felt the Holy Spirit or like the presence of the Lord? Just
that
add.
would be establishing a relationship, and no, I
Okay.
tried for that for so long to do that, and I'm wondering for myself and for another person, like let's say they were Christian their entire life and they believed and they sought out a relationship and experience with the Holy Spirit, and they never had that, meaning you don't believe they could receive salvation. So, like, how would I
No, I
be
don't
any
know if
less
I
Christian than
don't
you?
know if they can't get salvation. That I never said. I
So
am not a
that's what that
normal
idea tells me.
Christian. I know. I'm not a normal Christian though that goes off like because a denomination or because another person says that that's what God means. That's not what I don't take what people say
That's what you did
ever.
with Catholicism. That's what you just did with Catholicism, though.
What do you mean? No, I don't think that they don't can't get to heaven because they do those things. I think that actually those things can be helpful to maintain your connection to God. But if we're only relying on those things to get us to God, is what I'm trying to
They
say,
aren't.
they aren't going to get us to God.
They
Like
aren't.
that's what I'm saying.
You know
Um,
the phrase like "faith without works is dead."
mhm,
Okay, so yeah, Catholics aren't just relying on those things that you would
mhm,
call works. They also have faith, which you have. You actually have less that you believe will give you salvation because you believe you'll be saved on faith alone. When Catholics believe faith is dead without works, and they have to go to church as well as have faith to be saved.
mhm. I think that through knowing God, He changes you, and therefore your works will change by your faith. So like I want to do things for God because I love Him. So that's where I think like that's what that means. Like you can't just work to gain your salvation. I think you have to love God back, and that's what your true salvation comes from. I don't think you have to step a day in your life in a church to love God and go to heaven. I think you can go to church your whole entire life and never know God. I've met many people like that and like only knew the stories of God, knew the ritualistic things of God, but didn't actually know God in a personal way. I just feel like and I understand that not everybody gets like that revelation kind of feeling. I feel like through prayer and through a constant like for when I say prayer, I mean like I talk to God just like I'm talking to you. If I have a question or a concern or just want to learn things, I go to God first and then I pray about it, talk to him, and pray that he can help me see the answer, and then I wait for those answers. I read my Bible. And I've talked about this many times, like I'll pray about something, completely forget that I even prayed about wanting that answer, and weeks, months later I get that answer and I'm like, oh my gosh, I prayed about getting that answer and completely forgot about it. So I feel like people do try to
Can I
rush
do that
God
if I
too.
reflected
uh
instead of
could you
prayed? If I
I
just spent that time
mhm.
reflecting instead of praying, could I do those same things?
What do you mean by reflecting? What do you mean by that?
So if I just sat with my thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
thought about ways I could solve problems, and then like maybe I find some right away, maybe some come to me months down the road. I find all the answers I'm looking for. Like I guess my point is, if I can do that because I do, why do I need to pray as well?
I feel like I guess that is what I'm doing with God, but I guess what I have learned just from like other people, I also found God in jail and prison. I feel like jails and prisons are a lot more tougher on you when it comes to like the Bible, what God means in it. Like, they don't sugarcoat it like the churches do. So like when I got out of prison and I started going to church more often, I was like, what in the world? They don't teach you any of this. It's all just cotton candy, religion, fluffy duffy stuff, make you feel good. And
Yeah.
and then you start really actually reading the Bible. And when you've grown up, especially for people who've grown up in the religion, it's like, why wasn't I told about this? And then it's very hard to, because then you almost feel like you're lied to, like that you were worshiping or praising somebody that you didn't even know. So I feel like that's again where that relationship aspect comes in it. And maybe I'm using the wrong word or whatever you want to call it, but having a connection to God and having that, like you said, sitting and reminiscing, but God, I feel like through doing that and being aware that, hey, I want your direction, God, you will learn how to decipher what are your thoughts, what are from God, and of course, what is from the enemy. And I feel like that only comes from spending time with God to be able to learn who you're listening to. Is it you? Because I feel like we have our own thoughts, God, and then, of course, the enemy.
So in other words, you think maybe because I'm not convinced that things like this exist,
Mhm.
that instead of me just solving these problems on my own, that there's some type of Holy Spirit interaction that I'm not aware of when I'm doing that.
I think God is always moving in our life, whether we believe in him or not. Yeah, I definitely do. I think like back on my life and I look back on times and things in my life, and I feel like God has also revealed things in my life where I'm like, that had to be God. When people talk about thoughts coming into your head out of nowhere, I feel like those are the influences in that, realm beyond us. So, like, I feel like since I've learned how to meditate, you could even use it as meditation, sitting and being alone with yourself, your thoughts, that you can really start to decipher where those are coming from if you're aware of them. I feel like if you're in a state of denying that they even exist, then you're even more influential because they can influence you so much easier, especially the enemy, if you don't acknowledge that they're even real. So
Yeah.
that's another thing that I feel like happens a lot.
I'm sorry you were incarcerated and a woman.
Sorry, it was my fault. Trust me, I've been there a couple times.
Well, here's the thing. I don't agree with most laws in this country, and I don't
Mm,
think that it's quote your fault necessarily. I don't know what happened or whatever. I don't
mhm,
think it's always people's faults, and I think that our justice system and prison system are really
mm,
messed up, and people,
horrible.
especially women, are mistreated really badly there.
Hmm.
So regardless of what you did, you did your time for that, and I'm sorry that you went through the experience of being incarcerated, regardless of what you did, because I think
Hmm.
that does more harm than good. And I just wanted to say that my heart feels for you. And I know
You're
I'm an
sweet.
atheist.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you ever
No.
want to chat because you're struggling or
Mm,
anything, don't be afraid to reach out. Even though I'm an atheist, I just I have empathy and I'm
mm,
feeling for you and wondering what that must have been like and stuff. So I'm sorry that you went through
yeah.
that.
No, I really appreciate that. It is hard. A lot of people don't talk about it. And I grew up atheist, okay? So like my parents when I grew up are atheists and they are the most wonderful people that I know. Granted, when they passed away 8 years ago, and when they passed, they were Christian and everything. That going to prison and the things that I went through actually led them to God, and me to God. So no, I know that just because you don't believe in God does not make you this awful, hateful person. I don't agree with that view. I don't agree with that we should shun people and not talk to them or communicate or love them just because they don't believe in God or are not at that point in their life. I don't feel like that is um, Christian like at all. I mean, or God like
No,
at all.
no,
But
with
yeah.
prostitutes and sick people.
Yes, no, I agree. And, and on the prison thing, I mean, that is one thing that, that is the most lonely place I've ever been in my life. And being in that situation and being around people who are murderers too, and like people who are actually, like in there for big crimes, and then sitting down with these people. I mean, both my bunkies to my left and right were both murderers. One of them was in there for life, and then the other one was doing a 25 to life. And from the outside in, us as a society looks at those people and we just see their charge. You don't see the human being behind that. And in a woman's case and in a woman's prison, there are and in my state, at least, Ohio did not have self-defense laws for decades. So we just got self-defense laws, I believe, in 2019. So before that, there were no self-defense laws in Ohio. And so there was lots of women in there. Like my bunkie that was in there for life was married to a horribly abusive husband who abused her sexually. I can't say that.
That's it.
Essayed her, both her children, her son and her daughter. When they got a little older, they all conspired and unalived him together. So they were all in the system. Her daughter was there with us. And that was to get out of a situation that she went to the cops. And I mean, this was like in the 60s or 70s because she was an old lady at the time.
I
And
don't
like
feel
her,
it's morally wrong of her to do.
right,
That's
right.
like
um,
I it's hard to admit, but when I was experiencing DV before I
mhm,
escaped, I was a child and it was my dad, and I never
mm,
did any harm, but I fantasized about causing him harm, and that's hard to
mm,
admit, but I did. So
mm.
I don't I will never blame an abuser for reactive, or I'll never blame an abused person for reactive abuse. Although it's not
Yeah.
justified to harm anybody
hmm
ever,
But
I somehow get it because I've been abused.
hmm hmm Oh, 100%. I was in a abusive relationship for almost 5 years. That is one of the reasons that led me to prison the first time, was to get away from him. Like that was my only choice because he held that over my head, and then I would be pregnant and have kids, and I'd get that held over my head. I'm like, I don't want to go to prison. I'm either pregnant or just had a kid. And I was very young and dumb. I was only 18 at the time, and when I got with him, and then by the time I was 22, I actually like left him, and then I ended up. He called my probation officer, and it was all in the paperwork, and he had a bunch of stuff on me and sent me to prison. So that was the first time that I went to prison. But the second time was completely all my fault for sure.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when it's time for the parole board, because this is one of my biggest fears if I were ever incarcerated. I
Hmm
think I think I would never end up getting released because I refuse to concede and say that I'm religious or believe in some higher power,
hmm
and I'm an atheist. And I'm wondering, did they ask you about that? Were you required to like say that you submitted to some higher power or something? Because they do that in NA,
Do
and I recovered
yes, they
from
do.
substances,
Hmm
and I did that without NA or rehab. So I know
hmm
that it's possible to do that without religion or belief in God.
hmm
But I'm just curious. I've heard in some states they will ask you about your religion or beliefs before they release you.
Gosh, it has been literally so long Since I'm 38 now. I got out of prison when I was 23, the last and final time. Or no, I was 24, the last and final time. So it's been a really long time. Um,
You're 28
but
now?
I'm 38 now.
Oh, okay.
38. Yeah, yeah. I got out when I was
24 with
24.
me.
Well, thanks. It's just
Yep.
genes, it's all genes, okay?
Yeah.
I don't take credit because, like you, I was I mean, I grew up in Chicago and I was got in like involved in all the bad things you can in Chicago at the age of
Yeah. My
11 and
brother got
started.
pew pew in Chicago.
Oh, he got what in Chicago? Sorry, you were.
You have to say pew pew on here.
Oh, got you. Yes, yeah. Oh, did he? No way.
Yeah, my family's from 96 in Damon on the south side.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I know exactly where that at. My parents lived like off of Howard,
Okay.
up like west, or I guess west side, you would call it. But then we moved more up, like towards, right by Evanston, like right on the border of
Okay.
Evanston and Chicago. And that's where my mom and dad were like grew up. And then so that's where I grew up. And then we moved to Ohio when I was almost 17 and I had my first child at that point. So I was also a very young parent and I had three children by the time I was 22. So just a very crazy life. But yes, I completely understand like the world of drug. I don't know if I can say that, world of
Drugs.
substances. Okay. Hi, honey. Good to see you. Um, so yeah, it definitely, I understand the AA world, NA world. I was also on probation for 5 years, so I had to go to those like at like three a week, I think I had to go to. But when I went to prison, the first time, I was only there for a very short time because I went to an alternative prison for about like I think 6 months. About a year prior, and that counted towards my time. So I only had like 5 months to do, but I did 5 years of probation in between that,
Jesus.
as well. Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, I should have, just not done the crime, but I should have probably just done the time. So yeah, I ended up on that first felony doing 5 years probation and all my time. And so I knew from the first time going in that there was a place called the faith-based dorm. And that was a safer dorm. Like I heard about it. And when I was going into the alternative prison, is when I believe I was 19, maybe 20. That's when I started my relationship with God. So it was the first time I went to the alternative prison. So I still went to prison twice after that. So it took me a long time to get my act together, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know where I'm going. ADHD. So you gotta keep me on track. But yeah.
Yeah, I have ADHD.
Okay, so you can follow me then.
Yeah, scatterbrained. It's okay.
Hmm. Lots
Um,
going on.
I am working a 12-hour shift, so I was just trying to
Hmm.
get rid of some time here. I just basically have to sit here and be a body in a place. But
Oh, I feel it. Hey,
I
this is a fun time at work, let's say.
yeah, I enjoyed
Hmm.
chatting with you, and
Same.
you're not a bigot or hateful, I don't think.
I
And
try not to be, no.
um, I run into a lot of Christians that are, unfortunately. I'm not saying they're all that way, but I just appreciate you not being that way. I am not anywhere near your average male that would be Christian or conservative or anything like that. So that usually doesn't align with Christianity. So just thanks for
Hmm.
being kind, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I usually come up, I haven't for a while. I'm just starting to get live again. I have teenage daughters, so it's the world of teenage daughters. And I also started over and I have a almost 4-year-old son. So it's just all craziness over here. But I definitely usually come as much as I can on Saturday mornings. So you're always welcome to come up and talk. I'm gonna let I think we have one more guest. I usually let a couple people up, but you don't have to leave. I don't know if you need to leave, you're at work or whatever, but if you need to hop down at any point, um, hi, good to have you here, friend.
Yeah,
Hi
Um,
there.
followed you. I'm gonna hop down and get to work.
okay.
I really
Yes.
appreciate you again.
Yeah, no problem. You're welcome up anytime, and I'd love to have another conversation with you. I hope
Right
you have a
on.
great day at work.
You too. Peace.
Thanks. Bye. Hi, friend. How are you?
Hey there. I'm good, thank you. I'm going through some awful stuff actually at the moment. I'm watching
Oh
a lot
no.
of I've got a tenant who's threatening me on a weekly basis since I asked him to move out in July. He's turned
Mm.
on me and he has turned evil. Don't know whether he's Christian or not, but I agree. I was just going to say, I agree with the last chap. You're really lovely. You come across great. You've
Well,
obviously
thank
had
you.
lots of trials and tribulations to go through in your life. And I'm really
Hmm.
glad for you that you found Christianity. Um, because of all the stuff that I'm going through, a lot of stuff is triggering me, men, debt.
Mm.
I mean, everything on the telly basically triggers me. Frightening stuff, guns.
Hmm.
This guy lives just a few minutes down the road from me in my buy to let. He hasn't paid me for the last 2 months. He's
Mm.
threatening me for £10,000 for like he's writing on these letters in AI and just threatening me every week with more and more dark stuff. And
Mm.
I can't even describe the anxiety it's built inside of me. I literally don't want to step outside my door at the moment. But atheist debates are really, I don't know, for some reason they're making me feel I'm learning an awful lot,
Mm.
and also a lot of the science side of stuff, which I've always enjoyed anyway. I
Hmm.
had a few questions for you, if you don't mind. So,
I'll try to answer them for sure.
okay, well, I just heard you
Okay.
say that you've been in prison a few times and that you went to
Hmm.
the Christianity dorm, which I can understand
Hmm.
might have felt a little bit more of a safe haven than other areas.
Hmm.
Um, I'd personally worry that it could be a little bit darker than some other areas. But what my question would be is when you were learning about the Bible, I assume obviously you haven't read it back to back because it doesn't sound like any Christian,
Oh, I
apart from
have.
the
I
atheists. Oh,
have
right.
though.
Okay.
I have. Yeah, a
All right.
couple times actually. Probably like I would say probably like 7 times now. And I'm going back through it all
Wow.
all
Okay.
all the
That's
time.
good.
All the time.
Oh, good. So you're going to
Yes.
read yourself atheist anyway. I don't really need
I
to say
know,
anything.
I know. I know that I've talked to so many atheists and then just listening to stories too on the TikTok atheist side, it's like the way that they came out of Christianity is like the way I went in. It's very crazy. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Interesting.
Yes, very
Exactly. No,
interesting.
no, I completely agree.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I have so many questions. One of the main questions is if you've
Hmm.
read the Bible 7 times
Hmm.
back to back, then you know about some of the absolutely atrocious things that God or Moses or whoever it is in the Bible that God told to tell people to do.
Hmm.
How can you still believe that He is an all powerful, all loving, good God? And that you can't, please don't tell me that, we don't know. You just have to have faith for no reason, which just, that's a
Hmm.
silly cop
Hmm.
out. Um,
Hmm.
the guy is meant to be this incredible person who designed us. There are so many flaws in the way that our human bodies are set up. There's so many awful atrocities happening all around the world this very second, every day. And okay, tell me,
Hmm.
how can you not see that God and Jesus did not exist? Most of the people within it didn't really exist. How the times don't match up, etc., etc. But more to the point is how can you believe that this is an all-powerful, omnipotent, all-seeing God who is all about love, with all the wonderful stories in it? I get that. When they ask mothers to kill and eat their babies, or they ask, they get the bears maul the 42 children,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
all these, I mean, all the grape. Sorry, I need to be careful about how
No,
I
you're
put it.
fine. I'm bad at it too.
It's
Trust
hard
me.
to keep up, isn't it?
Uh,
But yeah, I totally get why we don't want to trigger people. Um,
mhm,
the stories that I'm hearing in the atheist debates, I knew there was a lot of weird stuff because when I was a kid, I
mhm,
kept going up to mum and going, I don't get it. This doesn't make sense. How could this have happened? How can the Holy Spirit also be God and Jesus? And I just kept quizzing her.
mhm.
And my mum had a really strict boarding school convent upbringing. And my
Oh, okay.
dad had a really Christian upbringing. And he took all the euphoria and he loved
Mhm,
all the hymn singing and the
mhm,
church going. And the same as mum, she liked all the good in the
mhm,
Bible. And eventually she got bored of my questions and she went, darling, you know what? It's just a bunch of stories. Just take all the good out of it because the good is really good. But
mm,
don't worry because it gets pretty messy and you don't really have to know or worry or believe in all of that because there isn't really a God. There isn't really a heaven. It's a bit like Santa Claus. When kids are little, we have to tell everybody that they go to heaven so that you don't, completely, your world
mm,
doesn't fall apart. But the truth is, once you're dead, you're dead. We're born alone, we die alone. We're born with nothing and we die with nothing. And she is very matter of fact, even though she goes on and on about how much
mhm,
she loved her nuns. She loved her school. She had the best school upbringing, completely loved it. Her mum was a bit of a nightmare, but she didn't have to live with her. She lived in this
right.
beautiful convent and was obsessed with these nuns. But
Mm,
she took it all with a grain of salt and went, well, this
mhm,
isn't true. Sorry. How do you condone all those evil, nasty pieces of threat that man wrote in the Bible and
mhm,
changed and tweaked and wrote all through the years? And wow, I've got to give it to them. It's like it, Schmittler. It's that amazing power, and they got us. They got our stupid humans, and we followed, and we went, this is cool. This is a cool education system. We want to be educated. We want to listen to the law. We want to listen to how it works. We want to be good people. We don't want to go to Schmel.
mhm, right,
Tell me how it
right.
works.
Okay, so that's a lot to unpack. I'll try to follow in my crazy brain. Um, but I think that I want to address one thing that's kind of standing out to me. And that is the fact that I think a lot of people who practice Christianity simply just don't believe in what they're actually practicing. And that can really, really hinder how other people see Christianity and see God ultimately. Because no matter, how much I can tell people, I'm human too, so I understand, like we are supposed to be the reflection of God. And so many Christians are just not. And that can get really, really confusing, especially as a child, especially growing up in that, seeing all the hypocrisy, and then growing up in that religion. See, that's where I don't know if you caught, but like when I was in prison, they are a lot more like harder on you, I guess. And like the way that like you need God because you are this, you did this and this and
Right.
this and look in the Bible and that, like so I feel like I'm very blessed that I got that like more harder type of Christianity in the beginning because when I came out of prison and I started going to church, I realized really quickly that what they're teaching here is just fluffy cotton candy. All the good stuff, like you said, keep all the good stuff, throw out all the
Yeah.
bad stuff. You know what
They
I
don't tell
mean?
those stories in church in front of the kiddies, do they?
They don't. They surely don't. And that is where things get really, really, confusing. And when I was first in my walk, it was still really confusing to me. Like, why would, this good God do all of these things in the Bible that almost contradict it? And the thing that I've noticed over reading the Bible many years and going over stories, but I do, I want to put it out there, truly believe that you can't get the full context or the full meaning of the Bible while reading it without a relationship with God. That is my true belief. So I believe we can know the stories, but not get the full understanding if we don't have God's direction and guidance while reading those stories. I also, on another note, when it comes to the Bible, believe that the Bible is both literal and metaphoric all at the same time, meaning that those things did happen, like actually happen, but then have a much deeper metaphorical meaning behind it. So, like the Adam and Eve story, for example, is all of our story. That is a story that if either one of us were in the garden, we would have made the same decision. That we as humans will always choose to ultimately want to be God ourselves. We want to have that knowledge. And I think that it comes from the yearning because we're made in God's image. So therefore, we are the only creation that can create like art and things like that. We are the only creature that, and I don't like to say free will because as I've learned in these atheist lives, free will means that that is a choice without influence, and I don't feel like that's impossible for any of us to do. I think that we're born into a world and we're going to be influenced. I also feel like there's influences from the spiritual realm and that we get to choose which one influences us. So free will, I understand, doesn't really count. Like, I don't like that. So I say choice. We are given choice, and we are the only creation that was given choice. Every other creation that God created was to worship Him, and they didn't have a choice. That's why Satan fell, and I feel like pride is one of the hardest things to get through. I think it was one of my hardest things too, something I still work through, because pride makes you really blind to any other viewpoints of like the Bible per se. So I feel like when we come into it with a judgmental, prideful view on the Bible, that's what we're ultimately going to get out of it. If we go into it wanting understanding, wanting to understand why even God put that story in the Bible, because that's the other thing that I really try to and have been trying to be a lot more conscious of is there's been so many people on the earth, so many stories on the earth. Why did God have these people choose these stories to be in the Bible? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many stories to choose from. That means that this story has to have some kind of relevance. It
They
isn't
all
just,
wanted to make money. It's all about power,
I,
control,
I
and
agree
money.
with
They all
that in
wanted to
some,
have a
yes.
piece of it. It's so
Hmm.
obvious. I think I'm a bit autistic. Okay, I
It's
say
okay.
things
Me
how they
too.
are.
Me too. Me too. Trust me. And that's where like I'm learning too as I've come on this TikTok app. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 14. So I was really this was like in 2002. So
Wow.
I must have really been presenting because they didn't even like really think girls, had ADHD back then. Well, they did, but you know what I mean. But when I was diagnosed, they were just like, "Oh, you're fine. Just focus a little bit more," kind of thing. But
It
my,
feels
go ahead.
I was going to say, it feels a little
Hmm.
like a lot of the Christians that are calling up, they can't give any proof, or there's no real. Their belief is indoctrinated, and I feel for a lot of Americans, 'cause it's not like that in London. We don't go to
Hmm.
Sunday school, and we don't go to church
Hmm.
every Sunday. Actually, when I was feeling really at my wits' end because the area I live in is absolutely awful, I feel like
Mm.
God's around me all the time, massacring people and God knows what. Not as bad as in America with your guns in schools, but it's
Mm.
pretty bad. And obviously the economy is shot and people are turning against each other all the time, like my tenant who has
Hmm.
just turned evil against me and trying to get any money. I don't have
I
a job
believe
at the
the
moment.
Bible talked about this time, when hearts grow cold and the society that we live
Right.
in is, I truly, that's another thing too, is what brought me closer to God, which is pretty crazy when I think about it now, is conspiracy theories. I started looking into conspiracy theories in about 2012 when I got out
Right.
of
You were looking for help. You were looking for an
I was looking
alternative
for
to the,
everything because I had
yeah,
just gotten out of prison. You know, I was really learning about God, but like I said, I was raised atheist, so I didn't know much about God. And I was looking for what is the truth. I wanted to know what the truth is. I've always kind of been like, I don't trust people. I need a lot of I was
right.
adopted. I've learned now as I'm older, gone through therapy and stuff like that. Like I definitely am probably ADHD autistic. So that ADHD, I had like that food sensory stuff, like ARFID or whatever that I would only eat like five things as a child. I was really odd. I know
Most kids
now
only eat,
why.
no kids eat vegetables,
Yes,
honestly.
true. I'm honestly
But
the pickiest person I've ever met, but I wanted to know the truth. So I looked down every avenue. I looked into a lot of other religions. I also do have to say that when I came to God, my story is a little different. So, like, I didn't just say, okay, I am a sinner and I want to believe in this God that I've heard, can make your life better. What That's not how it happened. I was in prison or I was in jail going to prison, that alternative prison for the first time. And I was literally broken. I knew that what I was doing in my life since I was 11 years old was not working out. It was leading me down worse paths and worse paths. I was a parent at the time. Actually, I was a parent of two at the time, and had put my parents through so much. And I called out to whatever was there.
yeah,
What
I can
like God,
imagine.
I need you. And like I don't know if you've ever heard these stories. I've heard a few of them. But like some other people have described, I had this wave of peace while I was completely broken in despair. I was going to prison. I was an addict. I was just everything that society placed as like, you are a failure. That is what I was. I dropped out of high school. I didn't even have that. I just didn't have anything. And then this wave of peace and love, and then a knowing that this is just Jesus. It's almost like, of course you sound crazy when you say it, but I literally didn't have to ask. I knew it was Jesus. I knew that he was coming to change my life. I knew that because I laid my heart down and I didn't have anywhere else to go, and it didn't matter, what I had done anymore, anything like that, that he came and, gave me hope that I didn't have
Was this
like
when you
ever.
started reading, when you started learning in prison?
Mm-mm. No, I never read the Bible yet. I didn't even really start reading the Bible probably until about a year later, maybe. So this I was going to the alternative prison. So like people came in to the jail and the alternative prison that I did like maybe once a week to do a Bible study. So I did start to attend those here and there. But like I knew I had God and I felt different, but it was the learning how to be different because I had been the same way for forever since I was 11 years old. You know what I mean? I'd been running around in the streets of Chicago with not good people. Like I don't want to say the G word, but in G words,
Hmm.
like on substances and everything until literally I was 18. So for 7 years as a child, now that I have
Same here.
children, I was
Look,
like,
I've
yeah,
been
you're a
I've been
child.
sober for 1 year. Everything
That's
has fallen apart.
amazing.
The minute
That's
I gave up drinking and the
Oh,
white
it
stuff,
sure does.
everything has just been
It sure
awful.
does.
I used to have
You
an
know,
amazing job and all things were brilliant. And, I've got my own house and I've got buy to let and
can
I
I
was
tell
doing
you
really
something
well.
that they
And
told me in
everything's
prison?
gone to shoot since.
That so this is something they don't tell you a lot in churches is when you give up those things that the devil has a hold of you on, he makes your life a living hell. When you're on those substances and you're trying to get your fix, you know, it comes way easier. Money comes like that to get it. But when you got to pay your bills or you got to do this, it's like you feel attacked from every single angle. Anytime that you try to do something better in your life, you get attacked at every single angle. And that is a complete tactic of the enemy, is that they get
Well, that's
you.
just because I don't have the highs to look forward to in the evening anymore, you know.
Well, and I
But
think
before
that
I
you
had a
can
more
get
stable
that.
mind because I was like, tonight I can hit the old bottle and chillax and do what I want, have a good old long chat with my mates, talk absolute rubbish. You know, I had that something to
Hmm.
great to look forward to. I can go out and have a wonderful dinner out with my mates and then go out partying. I mean, I'm a lot
Oh my
older now, I'm
gosh, I would
46.
feel right. I would like need a whole damn month to recover after something like that nowadays. I can't even. I
I
can't.
tell you what
I
though,
can't.
I I am so around here. Everyone dresses up to go to church on a Sunday, and they're wearing
Hmm.
these beautiful colours, these incredible designs of dresses, and I'm like, I want to be a part of that. And actually, I'd get tell you into a little secret to give up drinking and everything
Hmm.
else. I was smoking a little bit,
Hmm.
and I didn't realise that apparently everything's laced with spice at the moment, but I didn't realise
Oh,
that at the time.
oh no.
Anyway, I was kind of really chilled and more than
Yes.
chilled. I was pretty trippy, and I decided that I was going to go to
Pretty
church because
trippy.
actually my mum and my friends weren't really answering the phone to me anymore. They'd answer the
Hmm.
phone, but I'd be talking at such a pace that they couldn't get a word in edgeways. I was talking about all my experiences of running around the park and meeting people and
Hmm.
doing gymnastics in the park and all this stuff. And they were kind of like, "Can you slow down? What are you talking about?" So anyway, everyone stopped talking to me for ages. My friend actually called the health guys, and I had visits daily, and was put on these downer drugs every day, and I had to, and
So
I
they
was
like
kind of
force
dressing
you
up
in
for
your
them.
country? Is that how that works?
Um,
Do they like if
I was pretty
you're
erratic. I was pretty
okay?
depressed as well. Apparently, that's
Got
why they
you. Okay.
called.
So it's like kind of
So they
like
went
we call it a pink slip. So like you were just a danger to yourself. So they had to
right.
like,
That,
okay, okay,
yeah.
got you. Okay.
I don't like to think about it, but yeah,
I
I'm pretty, you know,
understand.
I've been pretty down because I just can't get
Mm-hmm.
work. The economy is fucked, frankly.
I know.
So I
Trust
started
me.
going to church. I
Mm-hmm.
decided I'm going to get up every Sunday morning. I go to Saturdays, I go to the food bank. Sunday mornings,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get up. I got dressed up in some decent dresses, not ridiculously outrageous, but I look nice. And I'm kind of the
Mm-hmm.
only white girl in the village where I live. So I went there and I had all the little kids at the back in the last two pews just staring at me because you know they don't they're bored. You all they do is yawn. I was looking back at them, but all they're doing is
Is yeah.
yawning, going, ugh. You
Uh,
can't really hear things. What they did have is these drums and someone playing the guitar and this beautiful voice singing, and we were all boogieing, just shuffling about a bit. You know, it was just wonderful, and I can understand how they entice people to the church. And that
mm-hmm.
youth, they call it the euphoric
Mm-hmm.
draw to draw
Mm-hmm.
people in, but that's just
Mm-hmm.
a little hook that they use, and I loved it. But when the second or third time, they started reading these passages, these lessons, and a few more times in, the person next to me would share their Bible or get it up on their phone and show me where to follow. And as I was reading it properly, because they really didn't have a very good microphone set up, I couldn't hear it, and the
Mm-hmm.
African accents were so strong. I was kind
Okay,
of going, I
that's where
can't
you're
quite
at.
hear. So
Okay.
these lovely people, I thought, oh, well, that's very Christian of you. They were
Mm-hmm.
sharing it. And I was reading this stuff. I couldn't believe the misogyny they were reading
Mm-hmm.
in 2025. And they were handing the mic to people and they were saying that the wife must support the man who is bringing the money and the food to the table, and the wife, no matter what, must support. And it was so
Mm-hmm.
endless about the man and how she must not ever open her mouth to him and all this stuff. And it was incredible. For 3 hours, I was listening to them in every different way possible say that the woman was inferior. And eventually I thought, well, hang on, I've supported my man. He came out of the the army 6 years ago. I've supported
Mm-hmm.
him and his son for the last 6 years. I've never I've
Mm-hmm.
had loads of boyfriends long term, but I've always paid my own mortgages. I've paid all my own bills. I've never leaned on a man to do a thing for me. So why should I be
Mm-hmm.
listening to this crap? And all these little kids are learning that they have to, all the boys have all this pressure. They've got to go out and work. So I took the microphone and went, I'm just like to add there that it doesn't matter who's bringing home the food in the family. In this day and age, the kids have to chip in because all the kids at home are living at home in the
Mm-hmm.
UK till they're 30. No one can get on the ladder.
That's here too.
Probably
I
the
mean,
same in America.
I am grateful that my 21-year-old daughter is as good with money as she is. She's very responsible with money and moved out when she was almost 20 and has been on her own, but that's because she, has she's had a very good work ethic, so she has that background that you
Mm.
need. By the time she was, 18, she had already worked at a camp for 3 summers. So she had a lot of experience with, working and being so, but yeah, it's hard. Like, and, I don't know how people do it, to be honest. I do want to say one thing to what you're bringing up because I do know what you're talking about. And yeah, that was very like almost hard for me to like, because I'm very independent too. Like I had 3 kids. I was a single mom for many years. I mean, parts of my life after I did get out of prison, got my life together. I did it, I really wanted to be the mother that my kids needed. Their dad was in prison and has been in prison their whole life. So I knew that if I didn't get it together, their statistics of ending up in the same place were pretty much 100. So I had to, get my life together and all that kind of stuff. So, that was definitely one thing that I struggled with God is like how, especially to in my opinion, a lot of these men in my country are not like quality people to be submitting to. So you want me to submit to somebody
Yeah.
that, I can't trust my life with. But see, that's where, like, if you really read the Bible, that is not what the Bible says. So, like, in my
Oh,
opinion,
it
what,
says a lot worse than
but
that. Women are
it does.
nothing in the
But
Bible. They are.
I think
Women
that's,
and children are just massacred left, right, and
I,
centre. And
I
God tells the men
understand
to do
those.
it. But the
Hmm.
grape is
Hmm.
endless. And that the women are punished for the
Hmm.
men's sins. And the children are punished for the
Right.
men's
But
sins.
that's
It is
why
just
God
endless.
puts puts the most responsibility on the man. That's why. That's why God says to the man that you are to follow me. And that way that when you are a child or you are a woman following a man of God, you're really not
Mm.
following God, or you're really not following that man, you're following God because that man is following God. See, a lot of those stories that you're talking about in the Bible are not men who followed God, are not men who these were, like men who God were saying that didn't have a relationship. A lot of those things are examples of people who didn't have a relationship with God, didn't know God's character, and then claimed things. I know there are a few, but a lot of the stories are claiming that God told them to do this or claiming that this is the way that it should be. Like all of the I
Yeah.
know the
It's to
slavery and
put
all
fear
of
into
that.
people.
Right. I understand. And I'm not saying that the Bible that we read today isn't corrupted because it's 100% corrupted. Religion is 100% corrupt. I know that there's many books of the Bible that are taken out of the Bible. I've even read some of them. So I see why they were taken out of the Bible, because when you take those books out of the Bible, it makes a lot of the other books in the Bible that we read today not coherent, not
Every
make
film,
sense.
every story has evil and good, and
Hmm.
it's all the battle between good and bad. Every story is based on the Bible. The Bible had its place. We've got to
Hmm.
remember we're in, the century we're living in. We need to let go of it now. And look, I just want to say I really
Hmm.
appreciate you are a lovely person. I've
Well,
loved talking
thanks
to
for
you.
coming up and talking
You,
to
you've
me.
done this. You've done this yourself, and you may have used Christianity and the Bible to as a
I've
crutch to get
heard this.
yourself into this
I
place.
have
But
heard
you know
this.
what?
Yes.
You just all we do, I think, in my mind,
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
addicted to work and then I became
Mhm.
addicted to alcohol
Mhm.
because actually the pressure in my job was ridiculous. I think
Mhm.
we do transfer addictions and it takes a
Mhm.
while for us to find, that moderate ground of accepting having those sort of normal levels of serotonin and endorphins
Mm.
in our brain where we
And as
and also
ADHD people, we don't get that, no matter
yeah.
how much we
Well, we
try
have to keep
to.
looking, I think. It's a
Mhm.
bit like when I tried to give up alcohol, it ended up being a cacophony of different
Mhm.
events and factors that made me
Mhm.
go, hang on a minute, it's time. I knew I was
Mhm.
nearly ready, but actually it took for this guy to start being very sexually inappropriate with me, who was living in
Mhm.
my house as a lodger. And I actually went, right, I actually have to be sober because he's putting things into my
Mhm.
head that I need to make sure I remember that I didn't do because he was
Mhm.
accusing me of flirting with him in all these variety. And I
Mhm.
went, right, that's it, the nail on the coffin. But it was
Mhm.
loads of other factors that had happened through the years and through people talking to me today that ended up that whole cacophony of events, just like the way that the universe has expanded and evolved, that
Mhm.
ends up being a chemical reaction that goes in your brain. And it finally gives you that belief that you can do it and you will be better off without it. And I think that's going to
I
happen to you.
know.
You're going to
You
slowly be able to
do?
let go of this strange crutch because,
Do you know
gosh,
what I
it's
think? I,
it's got
I,
to
I,
go. Religion has got to
I
go.
know
It's
you
creating
feel like
wars and
I
famine and
do. I
evil.
agree with you. Religion has to go. And I agree that that is what Jesus came down here to say to us. This was the actual reason we were created in the beginning. When we go all the way to the beginning, is a relationship with God. We have convoluted it. We've made it into ritualistic things and all, when it
Yeah,
all boils down to have relationship with God. And if you have a relationship with him, he can give you a view of life that I feel like we can't get without him. A perspective of life, a perspective of the world, a perspective of other people. Like, I
yeah.
truly believe that's why I am the way I am to everybody. It isn't from my own strength. I'll tell you that, because for many years I have proof that it's not. You know what I mean? But I also
Oh, I
have
can
proof
see that it
that.
is. I think a lot of people who will start to watch you will
Mhm.
see that it is. You're an amazing woman. You've done this
Well, thank
yourself.
you. I
You've done this
appreciate
yourself.
you.
It may have helped you, but you have done this, the power from you from within. And I agree with you.
Mhm.
Spirituality is a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
Connecting with people and the universe, looking at trees
Mhm.
automatically. It has
Mhm.
been proven. Looking at the
Mhm.
color green calms you down. It
Yep.
changes the way that you're feeling. So, there's
Mhm.
all these things around you that I agree, giving other people high spirits and
Mhm.
exchanging connection with other people can give you a boost. I completely agree
Mhm.
with spirituality. And if that's how you
Agree.
found it, then
Mhm.
well done you. But I'll let you go.
Well, you have
Lovely
a
talking to you,
wonderful
Carla.
day. Yes, it was good talking to you. Welcome back anytime, okay? Have a great
Take care,
day.
darling.
You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye. Well, that was a wonderful conversation. Thanks for coming up, friend. I think I can talk for a little bit longer. My little dude is, oh, I think they left. Thank you for all of the taps and all of the gifts. It's good to see everybody here. I know that we've had a small crowd, but I mean, I think the conversations have been great, and that is what we're here for. And we're going to get that algorithm, pushing it out to all of our friends. And, this has just really been you know that I'm always blessed. I feel blessed to be here and to talk to you all of you, and meet everybody. And, I hope to just share some love, with everybody. Hi, it's good to see you. That I really feel like that's what we're called to do, is to love one another, to, give what God has given us back to each other. That's why I love all of you genuinely. I do believe that's because God loved me genuinely, changed me over the years to be able to love people genuinely and not judge, and that's the thing with Christianity that it saddens me that I hear so much, is because Jesus didn't judge. Yes, he is a judge, but he came and sat with the sinners, sat with the people, the tax collectors, and people that in that time would be like, why are you even associating with those people? And I feel like that is what like Christianity is almost become. Like, why are you associating with people who don't believe in God or practice the same denomination with you? Causes so much, division and all of that kind of stuff. When Jesus came here to be the perfect example, and what he laid an example out of is love, understanding, and to meet people where they're at. We can't expect, and I think that that's something that a lot of us struggle with going to God, is we feel like we have to be a certain way, present a certain way to be with God. And that's where Jesus came down here. So we didn't have to do that anymore. We didn't have to go through the ritualistic aspects of going to the altar and having priests and having all this stuff. Like, we don't have to do that anymore, because he came back here so that we, through the Holy Spirit, can have that connection back with God. Maybe not the same way that it was in the garden, but we will have that again. But this is like I guess I can almost say like a introduction to what the relationship in heaven with God is going to be like, and with the relationship with all of us, because everybody who is, believes in God, and we go to, we are all connected. So, and I believe that we all have the choice here on earth, which makes us all connected. Okay. So I feel like, that loving each other is the number one way to show what God has done for us. So that is my goal, is to hopefully,